Beatrice Miranda had always been known as the heiress to an immeasurable fortune, the only daughter of Don Manuel, a visionary and relentless businessman. However, the sudden news of her father's death brought an uncomfortable truth to light: the responsibility of leading the Miranda & Co. empire now rested on her shoulders. Surrounded by directors and executives who saw her merely as an unprepared young woman, Beatrice could feel the weight of expectations, along with the distrust lingering in the air. She knew that many within the company were ready to take advantage of her supposed inexperience. But Beatrice was not what everyone imagined. Although she had grown up surrounded by luxury, she had always been observant, paying attention to the small details that others overlooked. Sitting in the office that once belonged to her father, she gazed out the window with determination. It wasn't enough to just take over the role and continue the legacy. She needed to uncover the truth about who really drove the company. Determined to prove her worth and identify both allies and traitors, Beatrice conceived a bold plan: to disguise herself as a janitor and dive into the heart of the company unnoticed. With her disguise chosen, Beatrice knew she would face emotional challenges and difficult revelations. But to earn the respect her father once commanded and to transform the company into something more humane, she needed to see for herself who truly valued hard work and who was hiding behind masks. The day Beatrice decided to wear the uniform of a janitor was the day she chose to step into a world no one would expect from someone of her stature. The idea had come to her in a moment of deep reflection, alone in her father's study. Surrounded by portraits of past leaders, she realized that the only way to truly know the company her father had built was to become invisible within it. The luxury, respect, and power she had grown accustomed to would now be traded for a mop, a bucket, and anonymity. This was more than a simple ruse. It was a journey into the reality lived by those who were often overlooked. Beatrice was no stranger to the workings of Miranda & Company, at least not from the top floors. But what happened in the hallways after hours? What did the whispers, complaints, and struggles of the lower ranks reveal about the real soul of the company? Disguised as Cecilia, she stepped into the role of an ordinary cleaning woman, equipped not just with her new attire, but with a humility and curiosity she hadn't known before. Her transformation was thorough, a change in posture, speech, and demeanor. To the world, Beatrice Miranda had temporarily ceased to exist. Her first night on the job was a lesson in humility. Sweeping floors and cleaning bathrooms while executives passed by her without a glance was an eye-opener. She noticed how some employees treated her with kindness, offering a smile or a greeting, while others acted as if she didn't exist. These initial reactions began to paint a clear picture of the true character of those around her. The people who once bowed in respect to her as the heiress now walked right past Cecilia with barely a nod. In these moments, Beatrice felt more connected to the human experience than ever before. The plan was not without its risks. If discovered, Beatrice knew it could lead to scandal, and her credibility as a leader could be destroyed before it even had a chance to take root. Yet she was willing to take the gamble. As Cecilia, she started to forge unexpected bonds. There was Anna, the overworked but ever-smiling secretary, who confided her frustrations and dreams during late-night shifts. Then there was Roberto, a janitor who, despite his own struggles, radiated positivity and treated everyone with dignity. These interactions gave Beatrice more insight than any board meeting ever could. The most striking discovery came from those who thought they were untouchable. Carlos, the smug CFO, often boasted to his inner circle about plans to undermine the new leadership. He dismissed Beatrice as a spoiled girl, unfit to lead, and openly schemed about how to manipulate the board in his favor. His arrogance was fueled by the assumption that a mere cleaning woman posed no threat. Unbeknownst to him, every whispered plot, every deceitful maneuver was being carefully recorded in Beatrice's mind. Beatrice's nightly shifts revealed not just the flaws, but also the resilience within her company. She witnessed loyalty in places she never expected and disloyalty in those she had once trusted. With this newfound knowledge, she knew she was ready to confront the real challenges ahead. But before revealing herself, she had to ensure that her plan would bring justice to those who deserved it and an end to the greed and corruption she uncovered. The stage was set for a confrontation no one could have anticipated. a battle of wits between those blinded by ambition and a leader who had seen the company's true face from its most hidden corners. As the days turned into weeks, Beatrice's secret life as Cecilia became more than just a disguise. It became an immersive study in human behavior. From the dimly lit hallways to the bustling offices, she observed how people truly acted when they thought no one important was watching. The contrast was stark. In the upper floors, the polished executives presented a facade of professionalism and courtesy. But once the meetings were over and the doors closed, their true colors often emerged. Beatrice witnessed arrogance, dismissiveness, and, in some cases, outright cruelty toward those considered beneath them. The office cafeteria was one of her key observation points. While scrubbing tables and emptying trash cans, Beatrice paid close attention to conversations between employees. She noticed how certain managers, like Carlos, would loudly complain about their subordinates, belittling their efforts while taking credit for successes that weren't their own. It became clear that a culture of fear and favoritism had taken root under the surface. But amidst this negativity, there were also glimmers of hope. Employees who, despite their own struggles, supported each other and demonstrated kindness in small but meaningful ways. One such person was Anna, a secretary who worked tirelessly without ever seeking recognition. Anna often stayed late, assisting colleagues who were overwhelmed or covering tasks outside her job description. To Beatrice, Anna represented the quiet strength that often goes unnoticed in large organizations. Despite being overlooked by her superiors, Anna's dedication and positivity were unwavering. In casual conversations with Cecilia, she shared her dreams of one day advancing in the company, even though she doubted anyone in power truly noticed her efforts. This humility and perseverance deeply resonated with Beatrice. Another key figure was Roberto, the night janitor who had worked for the company for decades. Roberto's wisdom and warmth stood in stark contrast to the toxic ambition Beatrice had witnessed elsewhere. He knew everyone by name, from the highest-ranking executive to the most overlooked cleaner. He greeted each person with respect and often went out of his way to lift the spirits of those around him. Despite his own hardships, Roberto found joy in the simplest things, a reminder to Beatrice of the values her father once held dear, but that seemed to have faded from the company's culture. However, the darker side of the company couldn't be ignored. Carlos, the CFO, and his close-knit group of allies treated the lower-level employees with disdain, often mocking them in private conversations. They viewed the company not as a place of shared purpose, but as a stepping stone for their own selfish gains. Carlos, in particular, was obsessed with consolidating power and manipulating the board to position himself for future control. Unaware that the janitor cleaning nearby was actually the person he aimed to undermine, he revealed his schemes openly, confident in his untouchable status. Through her nightly shifts, Beatrice pieced together a clear picture of who truly kept the company running and who was eroding its foundation from within. The experience was humbling and eye-opening. She realized that leadership wasn't just about strategy or vision. It was about understanding the people behind the roles, seeing beyond titles and valuing those who often go unnoticed. As she prepared to reveal her true identity, Beatrice felt more equipped than ever, not just to lead, but to transform the very culture of the company her father had built. As Beatrice settled into her double life, as both the company's secret owner and its humble janitor, the challenges began to intensify. Working late nights and enduring the physical demands of her new role pushed her far beyond her comfort zone. Her hands, once soft from a life of luxury, became rough from scrubbing floors. Fatigue set in, but with it came a deeper understanding of the invisible struggles faced by those who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Every night was a test, not just of her endurance, but of her commitment to uncovering the truth about the people she would soon be leading. One of the most difficult discoveries was realizing how disconnected the leadership was from the day-to-day lives of their employees. In meetings, executives discussed productivity and profits with detached indifference, never once considering the human impact of their decisions. Beatrice listened as they debated cost-cutting measures that would eliminate jobs, never suspecting that the woman cleaning up after them was the future CEO. It was in these moments that she understood how critical it was for her to bring compassion and empathy back to the company's core values. But it wasn't just the executives who revealed their true nature. So did her fellow workers. There were moments when Beatrice felt the sting of prejudice and dismissal from those who saw her as nothing more than a lowly cleaner. Some employees who once greeted her with forced politeness when she was in her usual role as the boss's daughter now barely acknowledged her presence. However, these challenges only strengthened her resolve. If she was going to lead this company, she needed to ensure that respect flowed in all directions, not just upward to those in power, but across every level of the organization. Amid the difficulties, there were also powerful moments of connection and insight. Beatrice found herself inspired by the quiet acts of kindness she witnessed. Employees like Anna and Roberto, who had every reason to be disillusioned, continued to offer help and encouragement to others. Beatrice realized that these people were the true backbone of Miranda and Company, the ones who brought heart and integrity to a company that had, in many ways, lost its soul. These discoveries gave her hope, reminding her that change was possible, even if it had to start from the ground up. However, not all revelations were uplifting. Beatrice uncovered the full extent of Carlos's corruption, which ran deeper than she had imagined. From manipulating financial reports to securing backdoor deals that benefited himself and his cronies, Carlos had been quietly poisoning the company from within. Beatrice knew that exposing him would be risky, but she also knew it was necessary. The company her father built deserved better than to be destroyed by greed. Armed with the knowledge she had gathered, Beatrice began to plan her next move, determined to bring light to the shadows that had overtaken the company. Each challenge Beatrice faced, from physical exhaustion to the moral dilemmas she encountered, was a step toward becoming the leader she was meant to be. No longer driven by the desire to simply maintain her father's legacy, she now had a vision of her own, one rooted in fairness, empathy, and the belief that every person's work mattered. The discoveries she made during her time as Cecilia not only transformed her understanding of the company, but also shaped the values that would guide her leadership in the days to come. The day of the big reveal had finally arrived. The boardroom was filled with tension as the company's top executives gathered for what they believed would be a routine meeting. Carlos, smug and confident, took his seat at the head of the table, eager to push forward his latest scheme to further consolidate his power. Unbeknownst to him, Beatrice, still disguised as the janitor Cecilia, was quietly cleaning nearby, strategically placing herself to witness the unfolding drama. For weeks, she had silently gathered enough evidence to expose not only Carlos's corruption, but also the culture of deceit that had taken root in her father's company. As the meeting began, Carlos launched into his presentation, detailing plans that would further cut costs at the expense of lower-level employees, while funneling profits into bonuses for himself and his allies. He spoke with the smooth authority of someone who believed he was untouchable. Midway through his pitch, Beatrice, still dressed in her janitor's uniform, interrupted by slowly pushing her cleaning cart into the center of the room. The executives looked up in shock, some annoyed, others curious as to why a mere cleaner would dare intrude on such an important gathering. Before anyone could react, Beatrice began to speak. "I apologize for the interruption, gentlemen, but there's something I need to clear up." Her voice, usually soft and measured, now carried a firmness that demanded attention. As she straightened her posture, she reached up and removed the cap that hid her hair. The room fell into stunned silence as recognition spread across the faces of those present. The janitor they had ignored or looked down upon for weeks was none other than Beatrice Miranda, the true owner of Miranda and Company. The revelation sent ripples of disbelief through the room. Carlos's smug expression quickly dissolved into panic as Beatrice locked eyes with him. "You've been running this company into the ground with your greed and arrogance, Carlos," she said, her voice steady and unwavering. "But today, it ends. I've seen how you treat people when you think no one is watching. I've heard your plans to undermine this company for your own gain. And I have all the evidence I need to expose your actions, not just to this board, but to the authorities." She tossed a file onto the table, filled with detailed accounts, recordings, and documents that painted a damning picture of his corruption. Carlos stammered, trying to regain control. You can't just walk in here and make these accusations. This is ridiculous." But the other executives, many of whom had secretly resented Carlos's bullying tactics, began to shift uncomfortably. Some of them had suspected something was off but never had the courage to challenge him. Now, seeing their new leader standing before them with undeniable proof, they quickly distanced themselves from Carlos, eager to avoid being dragged down with him. Beatrice didn't just stop at exposing Carlos. She turned to the room, addressing the entire leadership team. This company was built on integrity, respect, and hard work, values that my father held dear. But somewhere along the way, those principles were lost. It's time to bring them back. We will no longer prioritize profits over people or reward deceit while punishing honesty. The changes start today, and they start with me. Her words were met with a mix of awe and admiration as the realization dawned that this was no longer the naive heiress they once underestimated. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Carlos was swiftly removed from his position and faced legal consequences for his actions. Beatrice took full control of the company, but she did so with a renewed sense of purpose. The people who had supported her during her time as Cecilia were brought into new roles where they could make a real difference. Anna was promoted to an executive assistant, while Roberto was given a leadership position in the company's facilities department. Beatrice had learned that true leadership wasn't about power, it was about serving those who made everything possible. The boardroom that day witnessed more than just a change in leadership. It marked the beginning of a new era for Miranda and Company. The company, once ruled by fear and greed, was now set on a path of fairness and compassion. Beatrice's confrontation had not only revealed the darkness within her own organization, but also illuminated a path forward, one where integrity would be at the heart of every decision. As she looked out over the city from her father's office, now her own, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was not just her victory, but the victory of everyone who believed that doing the right thing, no matter how difficult, could transform the world around them. With the corruption rooted out and a new vision in place, Miranda and Company began its transformation from the inside out. Beatrice knew that change couldn't happen overnight, but she was committed to creating a culture where people felt valued, heard, and respected. The first step was to dismantle the toxic hierarchy that had allowed deceit and favoritism to flourish. She introduced new policies focused on transparency and accountability, ensuring that promotions and rewards were based on merit and integrity, not connections or manipulation. The company's mission shifted from being solely profit-driven to one that emphasized social responsibility, ethical practices, and employee well-being. One of Beatrice's most significant moves was implementing programs that empowered the very employees who had been neglected for so long. She established an internal mentorship system where experienced staff members like Roberto could guide new hires, not just in job skills, but in the company's renewed values. Training programs and scholarships were launched for lower-level employees, offering them opportunities for growth and advancement. Beatrice also encouraged open-door communication between leadership and staff, where every employee, regardless of their position, could voice concerns or ideas without fear of retaliation. The physical environment of the company also underwent a transformation. The once sterile and intimidating atmosphere was replaced with spaces designed for collaboration and creativity. Common areas were revamped to encourage interaction and community building. Beatrice herself made a point to spend time among her employees, whether it was sharing a meal in the cafeteria or joining them in company-wide volunteer initiatives. She understood that leadership wasn't about sitting in an office, isolated from the realities of the workforce. It was about leading by example, staying connected, and showing genuine interest in the people who kept the business running. The most noticeable shift, however, was in the morale and energy of the employees. Those who had once felt invisible now had a sense of belonging and pride in their work. Anna, once relegated to unnoticed administrative tasks, flourished in her new role as an executive assistant, where she became a key player in driving the company's initiatives. Her dedication and loyalty were no longer taken for granted, but celebrated as vital to the company's success. Meanwhile, Roberto, with his deep understanding of the company's day-to-day operations, led efforts to improve working conditions, ensuring that every worker had the tools and respect they deserved. Externally, Miranda and Company began to earn a reputation not just as a successful enterprise, but as a company that genuinely cared about its employees and its impact on society. Clients and partners noticed the change, and many sought to do business with an organization that prioritized ethics and fairness. The company also expanded its outreach, investing in community projects and sustainable practices, aligning its business goals with a purpose that resonated with the values Beatrice held dear. For her, success wasn't just about financial growth, it was about making a positive difference in the lives of everyone connected to the company. As time passed, Beatrice often reflected on her journey, from heiress in doubt to a leader with a clear vision. She knew that her time spent as Cecilia had given her insights and connections that no title or privilege could ever offer. The transformation of Miranda & Co. was more than just a business turnaround. It was proof that empathy, courage, and integrity could redefine success. The company was no longer merely her father's legacy. It was a living testament to the belief that people, when treated with respect and kindness, could achieve extraordinary things. With her team by her side, Beatrice looked to the future with confidence, knowing that together they had built something far more valuable than profits, an enduring culture of trust, respect, and shared purpose. In the end, the greatest lesson Beatrice learned wasn't about managing profits or executing strategies. It was about the power of authentic connections. By stepping into the shoes of those often overlooked, she discovered that the heart of any company lies in the bonds between people. Success isn't just built on numbers and performance, but on trust, respect, and the willingness to uplift those around you. The relationships she forged during her time as Cecilia became the foundation of a new era for Miranda & Company. As Beatrice gathered her closest allies for a small celebration in the company garden, she realized that her father's legacy wasn't simply about building a thriving business. It was about creating a community where everyone mattered. Surrounded by the people who had shown her the value of humility, loyalty, and resilience, Beatrice understood that true leadership is about empowering others. It's the connections we make and the compassion we show that define our legacy, long after titles and wealth fade away. If this story inspired you, imagine what else is waiting for you. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and explore more powerful stories on our channel. Your next favorite video could be just a click away.